If you would like to earn CPE credit for listening to the show, visit earmarkcpe.com/FPA. Download the app, take a short quiz, and get your CPE certificate. If you would like to earn continuing education credit for your FP&A certification from the Association of Finance Professionals for listening to the show, go to the show notes for details on how to earn the credit. Finally, if you enjoy listening to FP&A Today, please go to your podcast platform of choice, click the subscribe button, and leave a rating and review of the show. And now, on to the show.
From Data Rails, this is FP&A Today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to FP&A Today. I am your host, Paul Barnhurst, aka the FP&A Guy, and you are listening to FP&A Today. FP&A Today is brought to you by Data Rails, financial planning and analysis platform for Excel users. Every week, we welcome a leader from the world of financial planning and analysis and discuss some of the biggest stories and challenges in the world of FP&A. We will provide you with actionable advice about financial planning and analysis. This is going to be your go-to resource for everything FP&A. I'm thrilled to welcome today's guest on the show, Maksims Sičs. Max, welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So let me just give a little bit of an introduction about Max, and I'll give him an opportunity to share a little bit more about himself. He's coming to us from Latvia. He earned his bachelor's in business and finance. He currently serves as the chief operating officer of the Financial Modeling World Cup. Many of you may have seen that on ESPN or other places that's streamed. So we're excited to talk more about that. He currently works as the head of business development for AG Capital CFO Services, where they do financial consulting for clients globally. And previously, he also worked in a commercial bank doing a lot of FP&A and other type tasks. So Max, could you maybe just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background?
Yeah, sure. So you covered the most part, but just to probably elaborate in short, I come with finance education. So I used to work at a commercial bank as strategic project manager, where I did, budgeting of the business. We had not the big bank for US standards. We got over 200 employees, 60 branches. So I've been doing, scoring analysis, budgeting, financial control. And then I joined the AG Capital. That's the outsourcer CFO services firm. We do budgeting, we do profitability reports, M&A valuations. We do a lot of fulfillment reports for clients on a monthly basis. So it's all the different kind of things. I also lead financial trainings. Well, I would say trainings in finance that include financial modeling, budgeting, cash flow forecasting, finance for non-finance people and stuff like that. And finally, the majority of my time takes the Financial Modeling World Cup, where I am a chief operating officer. I usually do everything that is related to partnerships, sponsors, PR, marketing. I don't do tasks for the battles. We have other people who are doing this, but I do more of kind of promotion and I would say commercial side of the business. So yeah, that's in short about me.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about yourself. And you mentioned that one thing I want to just kind of drill down in here for a minute is the Financial Modeling World Cup. You mentioned you're the chief operating officer for that. Can you tell us how you became involved in the organization? How did that come about?
Well, we kind of together with Andrew Grigorinovich, who is the founder and CEO of this, we started it basically back in September 2020. This was all like a spin-off of AG Capital firm, where I started working with Andrew in 2020, and then at some point we've been actually Andrew was waiting for model of competition that time to be going in 2020, but it wasn't. So at some point we just stopped by our coffee machine in the office and had a discussion, and Andrew had an idea, if model doesn't come, so why wouldn't we do our own competition? So back in September 20, actually we started it at at some point in June 2020, I guess. And in 2 months, we launched the website. We did the rules, all the administrative work, the legal part, and stuff like that. And in September, it was already the first battle. So it's really like, let's do it in short term. Let's see if that works. What feedback we get. Basically, that's how it all started. And since the very beginning, I'm with it, and I'm very happy how it grows and where we are today.
Great. No, it sounds like it came together pretty quickly without, during COVID, it sounds like, as Model Off wasn't doing
Right.
one, you guys kind of jumped in and filled that void. Is that kind of how it worked?
Approximately, yes. Well, we didn't know Model Off would retire. So essentially, when we started after like first or second stage, they just, emailed everyone. That's basically it. But we just decided, why wouldn't we try? There's not much to lose. We have the knowledge. We have all the things that we need to try this. So let's just go ahead and try.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. So I know the FMWC, or Financial Modeling World Cup, has been covered by international news organizations, thousands of people online. It's been broadcast by ESPN. Can you talk a little bit about how that all came about? How did it become so popular where you're seeing it on ESPN? It's kind of a global event.
Yeah, well, I think the popularity of it, I can tell you the long story and the short story. Let me start with the short story. And the short story is probably because of the nature of the competition. So when you think about, we started with financial modeling, and now the popular thing is very much about Excel esports. And this is what people like and hype about. And the reason is, if you think about it, we're moving into gaming industry. We're moving into esports. And that's where, a lot of young people are right now. They're like playing games. And because of the COVID, actually, many people were going remote and they were spending time home and there was nothing to do. So people started to, surf internet, do a lot of things, including playing computer games. But the thing with computer games is, if you play like, Fortnite, Counter-Strike, or whatever else for like, 5 years to get to the competitive level, and eventually Counter-Strike or Fortnite closes, what tangible skills you can get out of it. There is not that much that you can, keep it with you to your, to the next game or to your next job or anything like that. With Excel Esports, it's totally different, right? So if you train your skill at this competition, even if you don't win it, you can actually apply that skill in your next job. You can, be more productive for yourself. You can do your budgeting, your planning, your, all of the things can be very used, and it's all tangible that's perceived and is demanded by the market. So I think that the short story is that the idea of the competition really, clicks with majority of the people. The long story is, it's all started with finance, and we started to do different battles between different people, and this is the format that nobody was doing before. People like competitive field, people like entertainment and sports. So we started with finance battles, and we got sponsored by Microsoft in 2021. They helped us a lot, especially in the very beginning, to get introduced to the right people, including ESPN folks. And naturally it started to grow. People started to hype about it, started to demand more of these battles, and social started to pick it up, just because it's novel.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, I definitely see a lot of it on LinkedIn. I see I think it's Darian Early. I see a
Yeah.
lot of him posting a lot of stuff. I know he's won it before, and I watched one of his videos of him doing some stuff in Excel, and I just thought, all right, that's just a league all of its own, right? As I'm watching just the amazing speed with which they work. And I know Oz de Sol has been an announcer for it. I think you've had Danielle
Yep.
Stein Fairhurst, which I know I'm having her on the podcast here soon. I know you've had Bill Jelen. I'm sure there's been others, but those are some that I know of, in the Excel community, right? They're all big names that do a lot of training and stuff. And so I think that's really, really fun. And Oz, if anyone's watched any of his videos, he has a YouTube channel, is that Oz on Fire, I think, or something like that?
Excel on
Excel,
fire.
thank you. Excel on Fire. His videos are just great because he's such a storyteller. he always has a unique angle. Like, one minute he has a sword, next thing he's pulling a snake out of a hat as he's doing an Excel video, and it always just kind of makes me smile because often I remember that as well as I remember the example he was giving.
Yeah, and
So,
you know why people like Oz? Because he's very entertaining. He's making
yes.
Excel exciting. It's
Mhm.
essentially you watch a video about Excel, but you enjoy it. You can watch it in the evenings, drinking your coffee or a tea, because he has, this tone of voice. He's doing that funny, exciting, etc. You enjoy watching him, and he's making it entertaining. And that's why people also like in Excel esports that we do, that it's not only you watch the tons of hours and hours of trainings on Excel. That's I apologize, but sometimes it might be very boring. But you actually watch people compete, hosts and announcers hyping for them, people writing in the chat, who is gonna win. They're betting and stuff like that. Action is going on. It's much more exciting to learn that way. By the way, meantime, you will learn new functions, new features, applications. Then you can go and test them out later on. But it's exciting to watch.
No, I totally agree. Oz makes it interesting. He's, I know he does some it's like I think it's folklore storytelling, if I remember right. And that's the type of thing you can just see in the way he's able to make something that, like you mentioned, when you're sitting through a training, can often feel boring. Okay, here's how this formula works. And you got some dry
Correct.
trainer up there, and you're just like, all right, when will this end? Instead, you have that excitement. The other things you mentioned, people betting on it, right? It's like, okay, if this guy wins, I get $100, or chatting with their friend, or someone who really loves Excel, seeing some new way of doing something. So you get excited, and like, I can go try this, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of that esport mentality where there's a lot you can learn, and it's almost a community type thing versus just watching somebody.
Exactly, exactly. And this community actually grows very much. And especially what we like so much, we this year really launched Excel Esports like the whole season. Basically, those battles take place every month, and they're structured in a way that competitors are doing the case in the beginning, and then they come to the live stream. So everybody on the live stream, and there are non-stream players as well. So the non-stream player, they come to the YouTube to actually watch how live stream players are playing. But essentially what happens, they're kind of having a huge discussion in the chat. So how did you just do in that battle? And this community grows, and they're speaking to each other. They're sharing knowledge. I know plenty of people, or actually of the competitors, that started communicating between each other, asking advice. Sharing knowledge just because they see each other competing, doing well and better in some or other topic. So they're making friends, and that's what I like about it, the community thing, and we're growing with this community. That's just amazing.
You know what it is like. 13 different spreadsheets emailed out to 23 different budget holders, multiple iterations, version control, errors, back and forth updates. You never really feel in control of the consolidation and collection process. Yep, I've been there. Stop, breathe. DataRels is the financial planning and analysis platform for Excel users. DataRels takes data from all your company's disparate sources. No organization is too complex, consolidating everything into one place, secured in the cloud. Now all your data finally talking to each other. Everything is automated back into your report in Excel. Cash flow, FX conversion, intercompany transactions, now automated and up to date. Drill down and variance analysis in seconds. Don't replace Excel, embrace Excel. Turn your Excel into a lean, mean FP&A machine. Find out more at www.datarels.com. Yeah, so no, thank you. That's very helpful. So if I understand correctly, there's the financial modeling, and then there's also kind of the Excel esport. What's really the difference? Is it the cases and what's allowed? I mean, because I know there's a lot of things you can do in Excel, and financial modeling sometimes can have a very broad, umbrella when you're talking about Excel. So how do you kind of distinguish? How are the cases different, or how do you think about that?
Right. So financial modeling essentially requires you to have some kind of knowledge of finance, at least basic knowledge. So you can have cases like you need to build a three-way statement. You need to do those sophisticated sales forecasts. You need to do the valuation of that firm. So essentially, you have to have some kind of understanding and knowledge of finance to solve those cases. When we talk about Excel esports, you don't need any finance knowledge at all. And this
Got it.
is a competition to show that Excel is not only about finance and budgets and tables. You can literally do everything in Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the cases we had last year in our esports battles, those are like popular games. You can play, Mario. You can play Battleship game. You can play Snakes and Ladders, or any cases like that in Excel. So we build the system in which you have to find the perfect solution to solve that case under 30 minutes by, having different game moves or number of games or number of players doing different things. So it's not only about budgets and numbers and boring tables. It's actually more than that. It's very exciting. You can literally do everything.
So is there anything you can't do that's available in Excel? Like, is VBA allowed, using Power Query? Is pretty much anything that's you're able to do in Excel, are you able to do during these competitions, or how's that work?
Everything is allowed. You can do VBA, you can do Power Query, you can do ChatGPT if you wish. The only thing is you have 30 minutes, right?
Yep.
So if you're about to write a VBA and you can do that in 30 minutes without, crashing the whole Excel file, that's fine. Go and take that risk. Well, I know one of the competitors, like some years ago, tried to do the final stage in VBA, and his Excel crashed 5 minutes before the final. And as you know, with the VBA, you don't have undo button, right? So you have to redo the whole thing. So it's just a matter of risk return. If you want to try it, you can, but you might fail hard. So mostly
Sure.
people do just formulas.
And that's what I'd figure 95+% of the time they're just using formulas. Because like you said, that 30-minute window, VBA and Power Query is usually something that's going to take you a little longer. And so there's not the benefit where formulas, if you know them well, it's amazing how quick you can do things. So that totally makes sense. And that's kind of what I figured, but I just thought I'd ask. So what is the prize for the winners? If you win, esport or the Financial Modeling World Cup, what do you get? How's that work?
So if you win financial modeling, you would get, well, the official prize that was announced is 25,000, but now we have another sponsor coming, which is Order.co, which will contribute another 5K grant to the sponsorship fund. So essentially for finance, it's 30K. For Excel Esports, it's a little bit more than 15,000. But the prize money is split throughout the whole year, so you can win smaller prizes if you win a stage, and you can get the bigger prize if you win the finals, right? So Microsoft Excel World Championship. And by the way, the finals of this competition will be in Las Vegas this year in person. So we will pay for the finalists, we will cover the costs, and we will broadcast it from Las Vegas, to the whole world.
Well, when you send me the information when the finals are, I might have to do a road trip. I'm not far from Vegas.
You should.
So I might have to come down. I'd love to do that if I can make it work. So please send me that information. And we could also put that in the show notes for people if anyone else is interested. Next question. Let's say somebody wants to enter the tournament. They're listening and thinking, hey, that would be fun. How does somebody do that?
Oh, it's very simple. You just go to the website, you get a ticket. Well, the ticket costs money. So one stage ticket is about $20, but if you buy a seasonal pass, it's much cheaper. So majority of the players, they have just seasonal passes. And the thing is that you not only get, an access to the stage, you also get an access to 3 cases. Each case worth $20. And also you get the solutions. You can buy a case without a solution, which will be difficult if you want to figure out if you're correct. We do provide the solution files. And when I say solution, I don't mean answers. I mean literally all the formulas with all the explanations and outline model with best practices how to do that case. So it's really a lot of value at the end of the day. If you just buy a ticket, you get at least 3 cases, you get a lot of learning opportunities, you can score yourself against others. But at the end of the day, to participate, it's just, go and get a ticket.
Got it. No, that totally makes sense. And that's what I thought. I remember looking at it one time. It'd been a little while back. And so what would you say if somebody wants to participate, what skill level do they need to be? I mean, how good do they need to be in Excel?
Well, it depends what they want to achieve. If they want to be number one, well, they probably need a little bit of training, practice, experience. But if you just want to try, I mean, for Excel esports, you don't need any specific knowledge. You don't know VBA or Power Query. If you know kind of basic formulas, if and then statements, then you're good to try it. I mean, it's just a matter of time probably that would take you a little more time to do the case rather than for other people who know more advanced and latest formulas like, dynamic arrays and stuff like that. For finance, well, as I mentioned before, you need to have some basic finance knowledge and you also need some basic Excel. So as long as you know ifs, lookups and some ifs, you should be good to go.
Got it. No, that makes sense. Thank you. So what's your favorite part of being involved in the Financial Modeling World Cup? I mean, what keeps you being involved in it? What's your passion with this?
All of it. All of
Have
it.
you competed?
No, I haven't competed. Well, I did compete probably here in the office with the colleagues, but not on the, on the broader level when
Sure.
I compete with other people. The thing is, it's also kind of a conflict of interest. There is no other competition like us that would do that. So sometimes I need to test the cases and I do the cases myself. My colleagues either solve the cases or create the cases themselves, but we do not really compete just because of the conflict of interest. We want to make
Sure,
it.
and that totally makes sense. I figure as much that you'd have to do something that's not sponsored by you guys to be able to, because you're putting together the cases and those type of things.
Yeah, because it will be weird, if Max from FMWC will be winning stage after stage,
Everybody would be wondering. Yes, that would be a bad idea. Totally get it. So, another question here, and then I want to get a little bit into the work you do, but one last question on Financial Modeling World Cup. What's the most unique thing or maybe unique solution that you've seen someone do in Excel?
Well, I can probably mention the unique or weird or maybe interesting thing that I've seen in Excel. This probably I'm referring to Excel Wizard. I'm not sure if you've heard of him, but that's the guy from Thai. His name is Bo Ribadan, and I think he's one of the first guys who started to really dig deep in dynamic arrays. And when I say that, I really mean deep in this.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that happen? Well, we have Excel battles for that we do every month. So basically, let me probably before that tell a brief intro. Like last year, we created an account on speedrun.com. So the speedrun.com is the website where there are all the different kinds of different games and people publish speedruns of the game. So speedrun is to do the game or complete the game as quick as possible.
Okay.
We created an account with a goal and purpose to for our contestants to do the Excel battles that we provide as soon as possible, so that you can train a lot, you can do your homework, but when you come, try to record as quick as possible as you can solve them. And actually, on 90% of the videos that are there, Bo Ribadan, the Excel wizard, he's the winner of those cases. He's doing those cases that are meant for 30 minutes, and this is very challenging to do for 30 minutes. Sometimes he does them in 2 to 5 minutes. It's crazy. The thing is, you know how he does that? Basically, he writes one formula that answers like majority of the questions. It basically fills in all the level, and his formulas may be long and they may be challenging to understand. It could be 2 rows, 3 rows. And from financial modeling, we know that's not the best practice, especially when, presenting the model to a client. But just, when you think about the ways how he approaches it, and how he thinks about it. He uses all the latest formulas, lambdas, dynamic arrays, all the kind of latest array formulas, and just combining
Hmm.
all them, he makes just, I would just, if I was solving the case, I would do a lot of like helper columns, do it on the side, making sure that I have clearly outlined, you understand your solution. He just does this just in one cell. So that's, if you go on speedrun.com, Microsoft Excel World Championship, take a look at a few of his videos. You will get what I mean.
I'll have to do that. I'll remember that, the Excel wizard. Yeah, that's that's amazing. I remember I worked with the guy, and this is before I'd really got into Excel, and I'd see his formulas, and I'm just like, okay, this guy is just next level. And you just see those people where you're like, how do you solve some of these things? How do you think that way?
Yeah. You're correctly right. Like, you really need a lot of practice. I'm just, to be honest, I'm very beginner in dynamic arrays and dynamic formulas. I love, when I start approaching the case with the mind that I'm going to do that with a dynamic arrays, at first it's much harder to understand how would you do that. It's just much easier to do it the regular way. But when you do that, you actually feel like, oh wow, you could have done this like many times before. It saves so much time. And I myself, to be honest, I'm just a beginner in comparison to Ball. But as I get and proceed through them and do more of those, I like them more and more.
Yeah, I'm just starting to scratch the surface with dynamic arrays, getting more comfortable with them. And you can do some really neat things with them. Like, I've built some sensitivity tables. I did
Yep.
CapEx where, it will update automatically from like, 5 to 20 years. It's like, just make a
Yep.
change and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything flows through. And so it's really, it's cool the things you can do, but it does take a different way of thinking and it takes time.
Exactly. That's what I mean. You have to go through that thinking because if you were learned to work in a single cell, now it's a different approach. You need to work with the array and you need to understand how would it look and how would Excel read your array? Would it read it horizontal or vertical or how many values will be there? So it's a different thing.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I tried to be fancy one time for my boss when they first came out, and I built something all with dynamic arrays. And we got in there and it busted, and I was just like, feeling pretty stupid as I'm in with the general manager, and this whole thing's not working. And I thought I would be fancy, and so I learned my lesson. It's like make sure you actually it works before you get in there. I mean, it worked for everything I had tested, but I really hadn't tested it enough. And as soon as he asked me to do one type of thing, it fell apart. And I'm like, oh man, just kind of hanging my head. Fortunately, I had a really good relationship with him. He gave me a little bit of a hard time about it, but it was all good. But I felt kind of stupid. So yeah, it takes some
Yeah.
time for sure.
Yeah, just a quick note. Same happened to me. Like I was leading an Excel training for a company, and I was teaching dynamic arrays. And at some point, um, I've created a task. I've solved it. At home, I prepared myself, and I know what I was doing. But eventually, when I was doing this in class, it stopped working. Like, and I don't understand. It's because of the thing that I'm not, did it so many things that I just probably mixed either an apostrophe or something. It just didn't work, and I was like, "What the hell is going on? It should work the way it's kind of. I think I understand it, but it just doesn't work, and it shouldn't be like this. So it's really a lot of practice that takes.
It definitely is. There's a shirt that I have told myself I'm going to buy, but I haven't bought it yet. And I think anyone who's done Excel formulas, programming, SQL, any of those type of thing, any kind of coding at any level, whether it's an Excel function all the way to detailed coding, the shirt says roses are red, violets are blue. You have a left bracket on line 42. Like there's your error type of thing. And I
Right.
just always laugh because I wrote SQL for about a year and I'm like, yeah, that totally, you forgot your parentheses, you forgot your
And
comma,
that's it.
and you're spending 2 hours. And you're like, why is this not working? And you're just like,
Right.
forget it. I'm going to do
Yeah.
something else and I'll look at it later.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that shirt always makes me laugh. So, switching gears here a little bit to the work you do. I know you do advisory services, a lot for corporate finance customers. So, can you talk a little bit of, what kind of work you're doing in your day job? What's the kind of services you're providing?
So usually those are like SME. type of clients, sometimes those are kind of larger. We work with investment funds and banks, but usually those are SME type of clients that do not have their CFO in the company, or a finance guy, as you would call him, or FP&A guy,
Hmm.
like you. So
Yep.
basically, companies that are run by CEO, CFO, and an accountant, but they actually need a more deep analysis of what they're doing. So usually it might be a manufacturer, let's say, I don't know, a retailer or somebody that has some of the branches, and at some point he started the business, he managed it on himself. There was one branch or two branches. He managed to do this on his own. But as long as there are 20 branches, there are 100 people, you're not capable anymore to manage the whole thing. So this is the time when we come and say, hey, we're here to help. If you don't need us full time, that's fine. We can either do your analysis. For example, you need to track finance from banks. We're going to help you. We'll build out the model, take the negotiations and ourselves, and help you out with the finance. Or you need the budget. Let us do the budget, and you will keep it to yourself for the rest. Or we would do like a monthly service with them. So basically, firms that do not have who have not hired a full-time CFO yet, but they
Sure.
already need that kind of service. We are helping them to optimize that. And sometimes bigger companies hire us just because CFOs do not have time to do certain things. So we would just come and help them at a specific project.
Got it. So it sounds like, for the most part, a lot of these are companies that haven't built out the finance yet, a little bit smaller companies. You're providing some of those advisory, fractional CFO, budgeting, kind of whatever needs they have. Sometimes it might be project specific where they just
Yep.
need to staff up, but a lot of time it's helping a company come in and look at things and give them the finance support that they don't have internally. Is that the way to
Right.
think of it?
Yes, exactly. But you do not have to mix it with accounting. So we don't do accounting at any means. We do financial planning, budgeting, forecasting, and stuff like that. So it's more
Got it.
it's more on strategic level rather than historical.
Sure. Yeah. Staying away from the bookkeeping side of things, the
Right.
historical and a strategic, forward looking, strictly the
Yeah.
financial advisory services.
Yes,
Yep. No,
exactly.
we're seeing a lot of that. Definitely, I get contacted pretty regularly now from people who are thinking of starting fractional CFO services, and they ask about, what consulting I do and things like that. So it's been growing a lot, and it's exciting to see because I think small companies really need that. They need that strategic advice. Often the founder doesn't have a financial background, and things can be messy without somebody looking after those things. I'm sure you've seen it. You get into a company and the data's a mess, and you can't even start building a forecast until you can make sense of the financials.
Exactly.
And you're
I've seen
laughing
that
because you can
so
relate.
many times. I feel that so many times. I've seen that. I've seen companies, working in the business until, everything is okay. Like, I mean, until the company makes profits, but nobody was looking like, they have six business lines and three of them are very profitable. They're just subsidizing them. And eventually, when something happens, they come to us and say, hey, we got a loss at this month. What happened? And we actually take a look. You've been losing money for 3 years already, guys, just because you didn't have a proper CFO guy to point out to this problem. So
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree. And so I think it's great that we're seeing more and more of that. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what you see with these small companies, why is FP&A so important? Why is that such an important part of finance?
well, I think it's like when you walk in the dark without a light, or right. So how would you forecast your financials if you don't do analysis? How, like, okay, FP&A is part of forecasting. How would you make a decision if you don't have proper number of the background? You can make a decision based on your feelings, on your thoughts, on your previous experience, but if it doesn't have a number to support your decision, that's not really a thorough decision. It's not a wise decision. So what we are actually doing, we've been working with plenty of industries already. I think we covered all of them, but you can't really be expert in all of the industries. And the reason we can consult companies because we do build financial models that support our opinion, that support our decision. If we say that, hey guys, you're cost of capital is very much above the market. That's because we just see that you have to lower that, you have to, restructure, refinance. Or if we see, your administrative costs or salary fund or motivation system is went out of control, that's because we know that. That's because we see that. We analyze. We can watch what the market benchmarks are. We can see what the historicals were, etc. So it's all about numbers. It's all about decision making. And if you don't have a proper FP&A, you're literally working without a lighter in the darkness and trying to find the right door. And you might find it. You may not. If you're not, you will fail.
I like that analogy. It's like, yeah, we've all stumbled around in the dark before and you stub your toe or hit the door or, whatever it might be, because you decide, I don't need to turn on the lights. It's my house. I know my way around. And the next
Exactly.
morning you end up with a stubbed toe or a bruised knee or something. And you're like, why did I do that? And so I think that's a good analogy, is you're really missing some things without that light, without that perspective that FP&A can bring.
And sorry for interrupting,
please,
but I can
please.
actually build on this analogy. It's kind of could be okay if you have, if you're living in a small house where you have like, one room, one bathroom, you pretty much know what's the thing. But as your company grows, your house is getting bigger. You have two-story house, you have a garage, then you have a garden, right? And as it becomes more complicated, it's hard to navigate if you don't have the proper guidance where to go and what to do. As your property, as your assets are growing, it's just so much harder to take care of everything, to make sure that everything runs smoothly and runs fine, and you need an FP&A.
It's funny as you say that. I was thinking about, as I've been scaling and growing my business, not FP&A, but thinking, okay, at what point do I hire a virtual assistant, right? It's like, okay, I'm doing this and that and that. And I've been starting to think more and more about that. And I think it's very similar with finance and FP&A. Sure, if you're a really small company, one product, one or two employees, yeah, the founder can manage most of that.
Yeah.
You can be fine. But as you continue to scale, you have to be smart enough to know when to say, okay, I need to bring in the expert. It's no longer beneficial. So often we think, but I need to save the money and I don't want the expense. And the reality is good FP&A will pay for itself. Good financial advice, whether it's fractional CFO, FP&A, whatever, it will pay for itself. If not, then you probably need to look at who's working for you, because it should provide more benefit than it costs you.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to hire FP&A. But the thing is that sometimes it's just hard to observe that benefit, because very often it is not the money earned, it is actually the money saved. But you don't understand that, okay, if your FP&A advises you not to do this business, or it advises you to cut some costs there, or restructure your funding loan, you would just appreciate the advice. You wouldn't calculate, oh my God, you literally saved me thousands of dollars, by just giving this advice and making this decision. Because some companies would just, especially some CEOs wouldn't think that way. And that's sometimes hard.
Agreed. So we have just a few more questions here. I know we're coming up, toward the end of our time. So one question I want to ask you, when it comes to building a good financial model, one that helps the business make better decisions, what do you see as the key? What do you think is the most important thing to make sure you're able to build a good financial model?
Good question. Well, I don't want to say, formatting and stuff like this. This is important, but, sometimes you can get around about it. Best practices, probably yes. I would say from my perspective, it is just understanding of the business. It's just outlining the key business drivers that are important and showing them in front, at the very front, so that everybody gets clear what drives the business. So just to give an example, it's not about revenue drivers. Like if you're a construction business that does long-term agreements, revenue doesn't, like, okay, let's take energy business that has long-term contracts. Revenue doesn't matter, right? Your revenue wouldn't be volatile from month to month. You don't care about this stuff. What do you care about your costs, variable costs? If you're an energy company, you care about market prices of energy, right? So you would do sensitivity analysis to see how your results would change based on the volatility of energy prices on the market. You would think about what is the hedge options, etc. If you're a B2B business, you will be looking at employees much more in deep, rather than doing your I don't know, profitability analysis or full cost analysis, just because it doesn't matter that much as for manufacturing business. So what I want to say is it's just really each industry and each business has its own important drivers, their KPIs. They have to be observed. They have to be addressed at the first page.
Hmm.
Sometimes your admin cost doesn't really matter. Optimization doesn't really matter as much as the main thing does. So I would say a good FP&A, good model would, make this as a key, and everything else, because building three-way statements, it's just a matter of skill. If you get used to it, it's not that hard. Yeah.
I like how you focused on, really around the assumptions and knowing the business, because that's so important. You can have the most beautiful build three statement model, but if you don't have valid assumptions, it's not going to help you make smart decisions. So I think, for me, it comes down to, I think there's two things I look at as first designing something that can be easy to maintain and kind of keep updated. And that's thinking about how it should flow, how the data should be updated. And then really, understanding the business and making sound assumptions. Doesn't mean you're going to be right, because no model's right, right? What is right anyway? I mean, nobody's hits the exact number they forecasted. But if you can support your assumptions and it can be easily updated and used, that's gold, because we've all dealt with that model where you're like, all right, I'm just starting over. This thing just sucks. you know.
That's very true. We had one client where we did, sophisticated model, financial model. It was very thorough. Everything was, flexible, etc. And then when we came to pitch to the client, we showed, hey, that's the result. He was like, what the hell the result is about? And this still came down to the assumptions, because the assumptions, the client didn't reply to us. So we were like, okay, we're going to put, our estimates, but our estimates were wrong of what their actuals is. And the result didn't make sense to him, because so he was saying, what the hell you're presenting to me? I can calculate the numbers myself, but you promised to build me a sophisticated model, and it just looks like a crap just because the number doesn't make sense, even though the model was correct by the structure. And
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So we have a couple personal questions we like to end with, one personal and one kind of fun that we ask everybody. So what is something unique about you that you can share with our audience? Something we wouldn't be able to find out about you online?
okay, that's a trap question. I didn't expect this one. Uh, what is unique about myself? Well, probably the unique thing that about myself is that I love finance. I love doing financial modeling, but I also like, talk to people and doing, sales. So it's kind of a mixture of two. It's probably not the thing, not the skill you particularly would find. It's either analytical type of person or it's a salesperson. I'm working as a head of business development at AG Capital C for services. Sometimes I do projects, sometimes I do sales. So I really like this, a mixture of both, and that's probably a unique thing that I might think about myself. I don't know. I didn't. I didn't know. Don't know what to answer, but
No,
it's just a rare
that's a good
mix.
one. It's a unique set to have, and I'm finding myself, enjoying the sales a little more than I thought I would doing my own business. So I can relate a little bit to that answer. And so, next question. This is one we like to ask everybody. What is your favorite? Can be Excel function, feature. What's your favorite thing about Excel?
So I can definitely say I enjoy dynamic arrays and learning them more. I would probably figure dynamic formula as well. Well, probably the one I use the most. It's very simple. It's just sequence. Uh, I mean, it's you use it so much, and you can even do sequence of words. You can do different tables, different sequences of sequences. You can forecast your days. I mean, it's just so easy. I like it. So it's the one that I use more often than others.
Great. Yeah, I really like Sequence. I've used it a lot for dates and other
Yep.
times when I just need to test something, and can be really helpful. So that's a great one. And dynamic arrays in general, that's one of my favorite these days. I've been playing with some of the new ones a little bit. I'm reading a book called, I don't have it down here, but Up an Array. And it's written about nothing but dynamic arrays. It's about 200 pages, and it has the new ones like VStack, HStack. And so it's fun
Yeah, pretty
learning some
nice.
new tricks.
Yeah, I like VStack and HStack was unique because we do a lot of databases with
Mhm.
FMWC as participants, and sometimes you have to unite the unique values, and you would just do HStack unique, and you don't need to do. Before that, I had to basically paste one under another and just do um, find unique values and either
Yep, you're
delete
either
them.
using Power Query or you're doing some copying and pasting without
Right.
dynamic arrays. Yep. Last question here. If somebody wants to learn more about you or they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
It's probably just reach out on LinkedIn. I pretty much check it out regularly on a daily basis. That's one of my tools for work. So yeah, LinkedIn will be the, the place to go.
Great. And we'll make sure to put that in the show notes, and anything else you want us to include, around websites for people who are interested in financial modeling, and both the Excel and the financial modeling one, let me know and we'll make sure those go into the show notes. But finally, I just want to thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I know we got off to a little bit of a late start and had a few technical issues today. So I appreciate your patience with me, and I can't wait for our audience to hear this episode. I'm excited to share it with them. So thanks for being on the show, Max.
Thank you, Paul, very much. It's been a pleasure.